Topic 4 is going to focus on different ways we can apply what we just learned about adding real numbers. So for example 5, we're going to look at absolute value. So it says find each sum and simplify completely. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to almost treat the absolute value like grouping symbols. We're going to take care of the sum that is inside the grouping symbols or inside the absolute value bars, and then we'll apply the absolute value at the end. So looking at example 5, part A, we have technically just negative 15 plus negative 29. We'll deal with the absolute value at the end. So here we're adding two numbers that have the same sign. Remember the rules. We add and keep the sign when the signs are the same. So we take 29 plus 15. You can do this in your head. This one's not too hard, but if you need to show the side work, that's fine. 9 plus 5 is 14. So I keep a 4. I carry a 1. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. So we're dealing with 44. But since both numbers started out negative, this sum is going to be negative. So what we have to start is the absolute value of negative 44. But remember from a previous video, absolute value represents a number's distance from 0. So how far is negative 44 from 0? Well, it's 44 units to the left of 0. Distance is positive. Whether you're to the left or to the right of 0, you're still a positive number of units away. So in this case, we would say the absolute value of negative 15 plus negative 29 is the absolute value of negative 44, which is positive 44. So let's try another one like that. This time we're going to incorporate some decimals. Okay, so we're going to deal with the absolute value at the end. So for now, we're going to do some side work. We have negative 5.76 plus 3.9. We're adding two numbers with different signs, which means we subtract. So we're going to take the absolute value of negative 5.76, which is 5.76. We're going to subtract the absolute value of 3.9. Remember, we line up decimal points, and then we just subtract. So 6 minus 0 is 6. I cannot take 9 from 7, so I borrow from the 5. 5 becomes 4. 7 becomes 17. 17 minus 9 is 8. Drop down your decimal, and then 4 minus 3 is 1. So we know we're dealing with 1.86, but are we dealing with positive or negative 1.86? So I go back to the two numbers I started with. I have negative 5.76 negatives. I have only 3.9 positives. That means I have more negatives, which makes this final answer negative. So coming back over here to the absolute value, we have negative 1.6. So the absolute value of negative 1.86 rather. So the absolute value of negative 1.86, well, negative 1.86 is 1.86 units to the left of 0. Even though it's to the left, we still say it's a positive distance. So this would equal 1.86. Okay, so when you're dealing with something like this where your absolute value has addition or subtraction inside, complete what's inside, simplify the inside completely, and then apply the absolute value. Okay. Finally, for example 6, let's look at a couple of word problems. So example 6 says answer each question, include correct units with each answer. So on a hike, a hiker climbed 200 feet, descended 50 feet, and then climbed an additional 250 feet. What was the change in elevation at the end of the hike? Well, the hiker went up 200 feet. They then went down 50 feet, so we add negative 50. And then from there, they hiked an additional 25 feet in elevation. So to solve this problem, we take 200 plus negative 50 plus 250, and then we just simplify that. So you have two ways to do this. You can add from left to right, or you can group your positive numbers and add those, group your negative numbers and add those, and then at the end, find a final sum. So let's say we do that method. I'm just going to kind of rearrange this problem. All right. So 200 plus 250, that's easy for us. Those are both positive. We just add. So 200 plus 250 is going to be 450. And then we want to add that negative 50, that little dip that we took at some point in our hike. So now we're adding two numbers with different signs. So we technically subtract. So 450 minus 50 would be 400. But the question is this going to be positive or is this going to be negative? Well, we have 450 positives and only 50 negatives. So in this case, we had a positive 400-foot change in elevation. Okay. Now, for Part B, a bank account had a starting balance of $476.29. A check for $238.89 was deposited before bills of $76.45 and $127.50 were paid. What is the ending balance in the bank account? Well, we started out with positive 476.29. A deposit is adding a positive number to your account. So we're going to add $238.89. Bills take money out of your account. So we're going to add negative 76.45 and we're going to add negative 127.50. Now, for this problem, because we have two negatives and we have two positives, I'm going to add the positives and the negatives separately, and then at the end, we'll find a final sum. So for the positives, we have 476.29 plus 238.89. We're lining up our decimal points, and we're going to add. 9 plus 9 is 18, so keep an 8, carry a 1. 8 plus 2 plus 1 is 11, so keep an 11, carry a 1. Drop down your decimal. 8 plus 6 plus 1 is 15, so keep a 5, carry a 1. 7 plus 3 plus 1 is 11, so keep a 1, carry a 1. 2 plus 4 plus 1 is 7. So what we're dealing with now is 7, 15, 18, and then we're going to have some negative value in just a minute. So I'm going to add up the total of those two bills, which are both negative. So I have 76.45 plus 127.50. I'm adding those up. They're two numbers that have the same sign, so we're going to add and then just keep it negative. So 5 plus 0 is 5. 5 plus 4 is 9. 7 plus 6 is 13, so keep a 3, carry a 1. 1 plus 7 plus 2 is 10, so keep a 0, carry a 1. 1 plus 2, or 1 plus 1 is 2. So we're going to add negative, I need a little more room there. So we're going to add negative 203.9. Good grief, 203.95. So now to find the total balance in this bank account, or the final balance in this bank account, we want to subtract two negatives. So let's see if I have a little more room down here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 715.18. I'm going to subtract 203.95. So when you're adding two numbers with different signs, remember you subtract and then you keep the larger sign. So 8 minus 5 is 3. I cannot take 9 from 1, so I borrow. 5 becomes a 4. 1 becomes 11. 11 minus 9 is 2. Drop down your decimal. 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 minus 0 is 1. 7 minus 2 is 5. So we're dealing with $511.23. But is this positive or is this negative? Well, the balance in our account was $715.18. We took out only 203. So that still leaves us with a positive balance. So again, I had 715 and some change positives. I had 203 and some change negatives. I have way more positive than negative. So the balance in the bank account is $511.23. And anytime you deal with word problems, always make sure you describe your answer. Include units and a very brief description of what your answer is so that your reader can follow along. All right, so that's adding real numbers. We've looked at adding integers, adding fractions and decimals. We've also looked at throwing in a little algebra, and then we looked at some applications. So make sure before you get to subtracting real numbers that you really fully understand adding real numbers.